on Alejandro Mayorkas, and she's coming out on top. In fact, she is certainly proving herself as a fierce advocate for Donald J. Trump, and she's making her mark in Washington, D.C., folks, exactly the way her supporters want to see her. In fact, in her latest moves, Marjorie Taylor Greene has introduced this amendment to stop the Department of Homeland Security from working with the State Department to create what they're calling these safe mobility offices. Now, it's a classic case of Democrats using soft language, kind of like how they call it women's health care to kind of mask their real intentions. So Greene argues that these safe mobility offices championed by Mayorkas and Joe Biden, they're essentially a covert operation to make it easier for people to migrate to the United States, undermining what many see as the integrity of our borders. And then, of course, there's Mayorkas' recent interview on ABC where DHS Secretary openly discusses his plans to set up these offices in countries like Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, and even Costa Rica. And he talked about it as a way to facilitate migration, which to Greene and her supporters really sounds like a direct confession, kind of like he's practically admitting to helping people jump the border. And they see him as somebody who's not stopping illegal immigration, but actually aiding it by setting up these offices, essentially making the whole situation at the border even worse. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is a Biden administration official who was impeached by the lower chamber earlier this year in a rebuke of his handling of the border crisis. In fact, in an attempt to stop him, the GOP-led House voted to defund Mayorkas and his office. A different amendment from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, which would have reduced Mayorkas' salary to $1, failed to pass. But thank goodness for a lot of people, her other amendment to block DHS from partnering with the State Department of Safe Mobility Offices did in fact succeed. And so now some are saying MTG is the biggest endorsement for Donald Trump presidency this November. Now, then again, guys, one can argue that it's actually President Joe Biden making the case for Trump. I mean, we all saw that CNN presidential debate. Now, despite that, Democrats still seem to be sticking with the president, for better or for worse, or maybe even for much, much worse. Then again, despite calls for President Joe Biden to drop out of the 2024 race, right after his very shaky debate performance, a new poll has found that none of the top names being floated to replace him, including Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, would do any better in a head-to-head matchup against Donald Trump. RNC co-chair Laura Trump also brought up a very good point in the matter. That is, if they decide right here in the 11th hour to plug somebody else in, and it's not Kamala Harris, I mean, they just can't think of a bigger assault on our democratic process other than doing just that. But for Laura Trump, regardless if Joe Biden or if it's Kamala Harris, Donald Trump's polls show us right now that the American people are behind him. So definitely stick around. I got a lot that I want to share with you guys in today's video. Most importantly, I'm going to share some insights that a lot of folks aren't talking about because we really need to go ahead and break down the truth and get the truth out here, folks. By the way, if you haven't already, please take a second, hit the like button for the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for sharing these videos. You have no idea how much it helps the channel out. What's going on? We got Black Swan Socials annihilated. We got James Ferguson in the house, Cecilia Jackson, Lester, Jeff. What's going on, Nancy Ellis? All right, so first, here's Marjorie Taylor Greene railing against the Biden administration's plans for these so-called safe mobility offices. Take a listen, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My amendment prohibits the Department of Homeland Security from working with the State Department to establish something they call safe mobility offices. As if legalizing and enabling the invasion of America is not enough, the Biden administration wants to create offices down in foreign countries to bring more people in their foreign country and help them invade the United States. It's unbelievable, and they want the American taxpayer to pay for it. Secretary Mayorkas is not only allowing illegals to invade our country, he is actively importing these terrorists and rapists into our country through the establishment, taxpayer-funded, by the way, safe mobility offices. In a recent ABC interview, Mayorkas bragged about this fact, stating, "We have built safe mobility offices in Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, Costa Rica to reach people where they are so they don't have to take the perilous journey." I can't even believe this is a real thing. He is not discouraging or preventing these illegals from invading our borders. He's showing them how to do it, and he's making it easier for them to come by establishing offices in those foreign countries, bringing them in and telling them how to come to the United States. According to the State Department, the Safe Mobility Initiative is one of the many ways the United States is facilitating access to safe and lawful pathways from partner countries in the region at no cost to them, so refugees and vulnerable migrants don't have to undertake dangerous journeys in search of safety and better opportunities. I bet Americans would love to feel safe. I bet Americans who have lost children and family members to illegal alien crime, rape, and murder would love for their family members to be safe and their dead family members to have better opportunities. Oh, no.
After this, guys, a lot of people called Marjorie Taylor Greene a very, very strong and powerful voice for America, guys. And, true enough, the representative from Georgia certainly does seem to be representing her state's best interests to the best of her abilities. Exhibit A, MTG standing up against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and the Biden administration's plans for these so-called safe mobility offices. You see, we have got to watch out for these surprises that they're trying to hide in these big, huge, bulky legislations. And what Representative Greene is doing here, this is the clarity that people want. She's representing us in Washington, D.C. And as you guys heard, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's pushing an amendment to stop Department of Homeland Security from working with the State Department on setting up what they're calling these safe mobility offices. It's kind of like how Democrats use these softer terms like think women's health care to kind of make things sound a little bit better than they might be. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she believes these offices, they're just a sneaky way for Alejandro Mayorkas and Joe Biden to make it easier for more people to enter the United States under the guise of legality. Now, she brought this up after Mayorkas in an ABC interview, very proudly mentioning establishing these offices in places like Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Costa Rica. Now, according to him, it's about helping people come to the United States more smoothly. Really? Now, this is something that he doesn't shy away from admitting publicly. Greene says she sees this as him not failing to stop illegal immigration, but instead he's actively supporting it. Mayorkas' comments suggest these offices are there to protect illegal immigrants who were previously at risk, which, by the way, contradicts his earlier statements denying that there were any issues at the border in the first place. So, yeah, the stark reality here, guys, lives are being destroyed. Horrific crimes are happening to both Americans and immigrants. And for Marjorie Taylor Greene, what Biden and Mayorkas are doing is simply unforgivable. The State Department claims these offices, they're aiming to provide safe and legal routes for refugees and vulnerable migrants. But according to Greene, it's actually spurred a huge underground human trafficking network. And all the while, Democrats claim to champion women's rights and criticize Republicans. Under Biden's plan, it seems like, just about anyone could qualify for fast-tracked resettlement in the United States. And all on the taxpayer's dime. Me and you get to pay for that. How do you like those apples? And as you guys heard, this really gets to Greene. It literally pisses her off, especially when you think about those who have been waiting their turn to immigrate legally. She believes Mayorkas and Biden, they're basically just adding way more strain on the border patrol. They're overwhelming our cities with illegal immigrants, not to mention the strain that it puts on our whopping $34.5 trillion national debt that we have. I mean, you got to hand it to her. Despite often being sidelined by the political big shots in Washington, D.C., Greene, she speaks with a lot of what many are seeing as a clear moral voice that resonates with a lot of Americans. I mean, she's rallying with supporters to back her amendment and is urging them to show their support through donations and votes. I mean, it's all about getting her message out, getting the message out there, and making sure that it echoes across America. Now, there's even this growing movement right now to make Marjorie Taylor Greene Speaker of the House, because at least she speaks up for America and she's not a wimp. So what do you guys think about that? By the way, if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit the like button for the video. Totally appreciate you guys. I always got to thank y'all so much for sharing these videos and subscribing to the channel. Our growing community is absolutely amazing, you guys. What's up, Katalia? What's going on, White Gold? What's going on, Ryan James? Charles Wilson? Awesome. It's amazing. I love seeing you guys in here. So the House, which is currently under the Republican control, recently voted to defund Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. So this particular decision, it comes hot on the heels of his impeachment by the same chamber earlier this year. This is a move that was largely seen as a rebuke for his management of the border crisis. Essentially, 193 Republican lawmakers backed a proposal by Representative Andy Briggs to strip the funding as a part of a larger budget bill for the Department of Homeland Security. Otherwise, that would be, tens of billions of dollars going to Mayorkas in the next fiscal year. Representative Biggs did not hold back on his views, posting on X that Alejandro Mayorkas, who was impeached earlier this year, he doesn't deserve a single penny from American taxpayers. Problem is, this amendment, it's probably not going to stick given the simple fact that similar past efforts were eventually dropped during negotiations between the House and the Senate. Meanwhile, another amendment by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene that would have reduced Mayorkas' salary to just $1 did not pass. However, she did manage to kind of push through her amendment that blocks DHS from partnering with the State Department for those safe mobility offices. So that is a little bit of good news. Quick shout out and thank you to Love It, Love It. Appreciate the big two. Appreciate the love. Now, the impeachment itself was a nail biter, passing by a razor thin margin of 214 to 213 in mid-February, making Mayorkas the first cabinet secretary to be impeached ever since 1876. Now, the charges against him, they were pretty serious, accusing him of willfully and systemically refusing to comply with federal immigration laws, and alleged he breached the public trust with false statements and obstructing lawful oversight to the DHS. But when the action moved to the Senate, controlled by Democrats, the impeachment articles were quickly dismissed. The process in the Senate wrapped up so quickly, even without even giving the impeachment managers a chance to kind of make their case. So you already know what was up with that. Now, according to Mayorkas, he is facing false accusations that do not rattle him, and they do not divert him from the law enforcement and the broader public service mission to which he's devoted most of his career and to which he remains devoted. Now, the question is, do you guys believe this guy? Now, I mentioned earlier how Marjorie Taylor Greene is the best endorsement of Donald Trump, but perhaps President Biden may actually give her a run for her money, because no matter which way they turn it, that CNN presidential debate definitely tipped the election to Donald Trump in a major way. You guys saw the debate, and according to RNC chair Laura Trump, Democrats have a huge problem on their hands because, and it goes beyond Biden's shaky debate performance. So for Laura Trump, Kamala Harris polls, they're just about as bad, if not worse in a lot of cases, compared to Joe Biden. And so they basically have this huge problem on their hands. Now, sure, they're floating names like California Governor Gavin Newsom and former First Lady Michelle Obama, but the RNC chair points out millions of Americans coming out and they're coming out in these primaries and they voted for Joe Biden to be their nominee on the Democratic side. So if they mess around and decide right here in the 11th hour to pull the plug and put somebody else in, well, and let's just say it's not Kamala Harris. Well, Laura says that she just can't think of a bigger assault on our democratic process than doing just that. But I mean, at the end of the day, guys, these are Democrats. You know, would it really surprise you? I really wouldn't put anything past them at this point. But what Laura Trump assures us, though, is that regardless if it's Joe Biden or if it's Kamala Harris, Donald Trump's polls show us right here and right now that the American people are standing behind him. Period, point blank, guys. I mean, you guys see it. Donald Trump is the only way to get this country back. And it doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris or, quite frankly, anyone else that they're putting in there right now. I mean, she then continued to say that we had 4 years of Donald Trump. And we know how secure our borders were. We know how much money people had in their pockets, how much cheaper it was to go buy gas, how much safer we felt, you know, on the world stage when Donald Trump was there. And, you know, a lot of folks want him back in office. And true enough, despite calls for Joe Biden to drop out of the 2024 race after his very shaky debate performance, a new poll has found that none of the top names being floated to replace him, including Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, would do any better in a head-to-head matchup against Donald Trump. A date for Progress flash poll found that the number of likely voters who think Biden should remain as the Democratic nominee for president, it's declined. The poll also found that only 51% of Democratic likely voters think Biden should remain the party's candidate after this after this debate performance. And this is down 12 points from earlier March. The poll also found that Vice President Kamala Harris was the most popular voice to replace Biden if he dropped out the race. However, the same survey found that neither Harris nor any other Democrats being floated as contenders to replace Biden, including Whitmer and California Governor Gavin Newsom, would fare any better than Biden in a two-way matchup against Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee. Now, in a Biden matchup, the poll found 45% of voters would back Biden, while 48% would choose Trump instead. Harris would perform the same essentially in a head-to-head matchup against the Republican. According to the poll, Whitmer would garner 44% of the vote, while Donald Trump would get 46% in a head-to-head matchup, according to the poll. And about 9% said that they're just not sure who they would vote for. Now, you got Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. He would get 44% of the vote compared to Donald Trump's 47%. Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey would get 44% of the vote, while Republican Representative Donald Trump would get 46% of the vote. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Look at California Governor Gavin Newsom. He would get 44% of the vote compared to Donald Trump's 47%. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, they would each get 43% compared to Donald Trump's 46%. Thomas Gift, an associate professor of political science and director of the Center on U.S. Politics at University College London, he put it this way: the fact that other Democrats fare similarly to Biden against Trump suggests that this election is ultimately a referendum on Trump. So what do you guys think? I mean, like, with people like MTG backing him, does Donald Trump have this in the bag for November? It's a real question. And whether he does have it in the bag or not, it's probably not time to let off the gas. Now, with that being said, we're calling it, we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap for now. But I want to know what y'all think about this. Does Donald Trump pretty much have this in the bag ever since the CNN debate, or does he have a lot more winning people over going forward? Let me know. Let me know. Is it Trump 2024, or are you pushing for Biden, or are you pushing for someone else? Let's see. Function by Radar says, I hope Biden hangs on and keeps running. Trump will win. Cecilia Jackson says, I've never been as broke as I am under Joe Biden. That's quite the endorsement for, it sounds like, anyone other than Joe Biden. Royce White, ex-NBA player, is running for Minnesota's Senate seat. Interesting. All right. Appreciate it, Katalia. Love it, says Trump all the way. Jeff Koski says Trump 2024. Let's see. Cecilia Jackson says a billionaire can go off in the sunset. Trump cares about America. I'm voting Trump. Wow. So what was that? Diddy's Underground Railroad. Appreciate it, Ryan James. Well, hey guys, if you haven't already, do hit the like button for the video. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for sharing this video with like-minded folks and truth seekers. I truly do appreciate you guys' support, and I look forward to catching you guys on the next one. Take care.